a new grocery store in the area. So we're very conscious of, how we can try to help partner to make this happen. This is, step one for the grocery store that's possibly coming to our neighborhood. We still have a long way to go, but we want to be conscious of, how people may access the grocery store, what transportation options are available, because if you don't have a car, that's a big challenge.
Rachel, whether we're talking about full-on food deserts or just areas that seem to be a little short on stores, how is it that some neighborhoods end up that way and others don't?
Well, you probably need to take a historical perspective to look at the lack of investment in neighborhoods over time, which of course has to do with things like structural racism. And the mothers that we interviewed in Sunnyside were very clear about that they thought that was what was happening. And so while adding a grocery store to the East End is absolutely a great idea, especially if it's an H-E-B, we all love H-E-B, it is also not just about food access, but it's also about satisfaction with your neighborhood. So when a new grocery store goes into an underserved area, those residents feel more satisfied with where they live, and they feel like there's investment that has been coming into their neighborhood, which is always a bonus.
Are grocery stores the only solution to that, or are there other things that can come into a neighborhood that can help provide that same boost of confidence about their area?
I would say grocery stores are probably the number one thing, but other businesses are always viewed as an investment in the neighborhood, which is beneficial for residents. Things like green space, parks, and playgrounds as well. That also adds to satisfaction for residents.
Ricky, are there incentives that the East End district can offer to a company like H-E-B to say, hey, I know you're thinking about it. Come on. If we do this, will you show up? Or is there a limit to how much of that you can do?
So I don't think I can speak specifically to any literal incentives, but what we can say is that, the community is here to welcome, the grocery store. As mentioned, there's been a lot of underinvestment. For many different reasons, but we are here to let people know that the East End has, many residents that, are willing, that have, checking accounts and bank accounts, and are willing to spend that money. And there's a lot of culture here. The possible investment from H-E-B should be a signal to other investors that, this is a neighborhood you need to be in. This is the future of the city.
And I don't want to necessarily focus on that one chain, because we have several, supermarket chains in town, and varieties of other businesses that this could apply to as well. But I guess I also wonder, what is it, so far as you can tell, that is in the company's mind, any company, in trying to decide whether to locate a store in a neighborhood where you can demonstrate pretty clearly there is a need, there is a market base for it, you'll make money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I would say that one of the big factors there is density. The East End, especially the I guess you'd say Upper East End, the Second Ward area is developing very fast. Many apartment complexes are going up. There's 4 that have just gone up within the last few years. And that density is there. So I think probably one of the main things that H-E-B is looking for, and kind of maybe what we're able to help demonstrate, is there are people in the area who need this. There are people in the area who, once you build this facility, if it's built, will come and, you'll see the numbers you're looking to see.
Rachel, what would you add to that? Regardless of the neighborhood that we're talking about, are there certain factors that, so far as you can tell, supermarket chains might look for and say yes or no to placing a store in a given location?
I would agree. I think density is key, and where population trends are moving within the city is something that the grocery stores are definitely going to be looking at.
Ricky, when we're talking about neighborhoods that are thin on groceries, whether full out food deserts or, again, just neighborhoods where the options close are a bit limited, how much of a difference can it make for the neighborhood surrounding the store? Rachel spoke to it earlier, but how much of a difference do you see it making?
Yeah, I think it's a big deal to be able to access fresh food. And like I mentioned, we have, smaller, sort of market type stores. But one of the things that, I know that a grocery store similar to what H-E-B might do is, they partner with locally sourced food. Just learned this, that, some of this food is processed, that you have now, but having a bigger grocery store like an H-E-B that, partners with, locally sourced options is kind of good for the neighbors and, good for the community in general.
Ricky Cardenas is Director of External Affairs for the East End District. Rachel Kimbrough is Dean of the School of Social Sciences and Professor of Sociology at Rice University. Ricky, Rachel, thank you both very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Grand Rising. This is Regenerative Life Wayne coming to y'all as I run my morning errands. Going to get my hot mocha at my favorite spot that I go to, and running my little errands this morning, getting that done and out the way. As usual, as you can see, I'm listening to talk radio as usual, and on talk radio, as you guys just heard, they're talking about food deserts inside Houston, the inner city of Houston. Houston is a very, very large city. Very big. Houston is the second largest city as far as geographical size than Los Angeles. That's how big Houston is. And they're talking about one of the black communities in Houston has several black communities within it. They're talking about one of the black communities on the east side of Houston called Sunnyside. They call it Sunnyside. That's what they call this black community. And what they're talking about is they're talking about the lack of a large black, I shouldn't say black. They're talking about a large box grocery store that's known as HEB, which is a very popular grocery store here in the Texas area. So that's what they're talking about. And they're talking about how Sunnyside, this black community, needs a large grocery store like HEB in it. And they're talking about food deserts, y'all. Y'all heard it. Y'all heard it. In my Texas voice, y'all heard it. They're talking about food deserts, but they're not talking about people growing their own food. I find this commentary very hilarious. Got all these experts on here, and they're not talking about gardening. They're not talking about teaching these people in a low-income urban city here in Houston called Sunnyside. They're not teaching them how to grow their own food. They didn't say anything about gardening. They didn't say anything about having programs to teach these people how to grow a lot of their fresh food, like all a lot of your vegetables, like your greens, collard greens, turnip greens, tomatoes, cucumbers, squash, watermelon. I can go on and on. They didn't say anything about gardening. All these experts they had on this talk radio sitcom, these so-called professionals, they didn't say anything about teaching these people how to be more self-sustainable and how to grow some of their own food. Ridiculous. You guys heard it. This is why I enjoy listening to talk radio. This is why I'm showing you guys how they said, HEB needs to build this big fancy grocery store in this poor, low-income, minority black community. That's the solution. Solution is HEB should build a big, fancy, very expensive grocery store there. That will solve the whole problem. See, we live in America, a society that wants to keep you codependent. They want to keep you codependent. They want you to go to these big fancy grocery stores with overpriced food sprayed with toxic pesticides, toxic fertilizer, and charge you all this money to buy it. And that's supposed to sustain you. That's going to solve the problem. You guys heard it. That's their solution for people who live in the inner city and poor communities is they need more big, fancy, expensive grocery stores. We're not going to teach them how to grow their own food. We're not going to have places where they can go. We're not going to have community gardens. They didn't say anything about putting a very large community garden in Sunnyside. They didn't say nothing about that. You guys heard it. This is Regenerative Life Wayne coming to y'all as I run my errands this morning on Listen to Talk Radio. And remember, grow some of your own food. Create some of your own power via solar and lithium batteries. Harvest some rainwater for your garden. Because remember, as you heard it on this talk radio, they ain't coming to save you. They want to capitalize on you. Regenerative Life Wayne coming to y'all. Y'all have a nice Monday.